واتقوا الله ويعلمكم الله والله بكل شيء عليم.
Now let's move on to the Arabic language. And the Arabic language, the stronger you are in the Arabic language, the stronger you will be as a student of knowledge. And that's the reality. That is the reality. Because when we look at the sciences of the Sharia, even though they're individual sciences, they overlap. They all overlap. So for example, if you were to open a book of Tafseer, you'll find in it Lugha, the Arabic language. You'll find in it issues related to Aqeedah, issues related to Fiqh, that which is related to Hadith. You find that which is related to Balagha, that which is related to Nahu. You might find in it that which is related to even Sarf. You'll find many different sciences of the Sharia in this specific science, even though Tafsir is a science in of itself. Even the other smaller sciences, such as the ilm of Usul al-Tafsir or the ilm of Usul al-Fiqh, you'll find that the Arabic language even comes into it and plays a big role in it. So the stronger you are in the Arabic language, the stronger you will be as a student of knowledge. And the Arabic language has many different sciences, and we'll concentrate on a few of them. The first one we'll mention is Nahu, the Arabic grammar. And what a Talib Ilm should do is, first of all, start off with Al-Ajurumiyya, concentrate on Al-Ajurumiyya, and you don't have to become a master in I'rab. You don't have to try and benefit and try and learn all the different types of I'rab just by studying and just while you're studying Al-Ajurumiyya. But concentrate on what is in Ajurumiyya. Benefit from the principles, benefit from what's being mentioned. And then you're going to move on to Mutammimatul Ajurumiyya. And then you can move on to, after that, Qatr al-Nada with the Sharh of Ibn Hisham. And then you can move on to Alfiyyat ibn Malik and concentrate on one of the shuruhat, whether it's Ibn Aqil's Sharh or Ibn Hisham's Sharh. And you're going to make one of these two explanations an explanation that you're going to constantly revise and go over again and again and again. So when it comes to these two explanations of Alfiyyat ibn Malik, you have two prints that are very beneficial. You have a print of Ibn Aqil, which is in 2 volumes, so they put the 4 volumes into 2, and they gave it good colors. They gave it some good charts as well, to kind of make it easier for you to memorize some of the principles. And they did the same to Ibn Hisham Sharh al-Alfiyyah as well. I think it's 5-6 volumes. At the end of every specific chapter, they give specific questions to help you kind of go over and memorize and revise what you learnt in the previous chapter. They also put charts on there, so it's very beneficial. So what you should do is take it step by step, right? Beginner, intermediate, advanced. And then what you should do is, to practice your i'rab, pick up a book that has i'rab of the Quran and try and do i'rab of the Quran, right? So what you can do is pick a few lines and then try and do i'rab of it, and then look at the page to see if you got the i'rab correct. Because the thing about Nahu is, if you don't practice it, you'll forget it. Ask anybody who has studied Nahu. If you do not practice Nahu, you'll end up forgetting it. So you have to carry on practicing it, whether through teaching it or trying to keep it through doing i'rab and practicing i'rab through the Quran, or maybe even other books that you find that has examples where they give exercises for i'rab and then they give the answer to it as well. Now, that's Nahu. It's just a brief overview. You can skip some books. So instead of going from Ajurumiyya to Mutammima to Qatr to Alfiyyat Malik, you can concentrate on Qatr and the Sharh of it if you want to. But it's better to go up to Alfiyyat Malik and concentrate on that and pick one of the explanations and use that as one you're going to constantly revise over and go over and teach from and benefit from. Now, and you're also going to put any other fawaid that you come across in that explanation that you constantly revise over, or in a specific side notebook. Now let's move on to another science of the Arabic language, and that is Sarf. So in Sarf is not as big as Nahu. It's a lot smaller. but it's as important as Nahu. So what you can do is you can start with a small book such as As-Sarf al-Saghir. The author himself has explained it online. And you can then move on to Lamiyat al-Af'al or Shadd al-Urf fi Fann al-Sarf, and pick one of those books that you're going to maybe go over and teach from and revise from. Now let's move on to another science, which is the science of al-Balagha. Al-Balagha is eloquence, which is, it's loosely translated as eloquence. And al-Balagha, you can do the same thing. Start with a beginner book, such as Durus al-Balagha, then go on to something a little bit more advanced, which has some examples and where you can practice, such as al-Balagha al-Wadiha. Then you can carry on and study more higher books in Balagha if you wish. Now let's move on to another science, which is the science of al-Urud. Make sure you pick up a small book. Try and study at least a small matan in Urud, which is the scales of Arabic poetry. And it won't take you that long, but make sure you concentrate on it. You might find difficulty in it at the beginning. Inshallah ta'ala, you'll get used to it and it'll become easier, inshallah. And you'll actually enjoy it. Another science, and this is probably the last one we're going to mention, is the science of al-Shi'r, Arabic poetry. And the reason why Arabic poetry is so important is because the Quran was revealed in the Arabic language. And the Quran has many words that we can benefit from and understand properly through understanding Arabic poetry and memorizing and benefiting from Arabic poetry. And you will see when you open the books of Tafseer, you'll see they'll explain a word and they'll say that this word means this, and they'll bring 2 or 3 lines of poetry showing that it was used in this context. So it means this in this context. So the type of Arabic poetry you're going to study is Arabic poetry that was before the Prophet ﷺ became a prophet or before the Quran was revealed. You're going to concentrate on that type of Arabic poetry at the beginning. Because at that time, and when the Quran was being revealed, that time was when the Arabic language hit its peak. It was at its peak at that time. So what you can start off with is Lamiyat al-Arab. You can start off with Lamiyat al-Arab, study that, memorize it. It's not long. Then you can move on to Banat Su'ad. Then maybe you can study Lamiyat al-Ajam, even though it's not an old poem. It's not as old as these other poems, but it's very beneficial. Then you can move on to al-Mu'allaqat, right? And these are the most beneficial poems when it comes to trying to study the Arabic shi'r, Arabic poetry. Other books that you can benefit from is Al-Hamasa li Abi Tammam, because when you look at the books of Tafseer and other books of Ulum, they'll say وَقَالَ فِي الْحَمَاسَةِ وَقَالَ فِي الْحَمَاسَةِ, and they'll mention certain lines of poetry. And when they say وَقَالَ فِي الْحَمَاسَةِ, they mean في حماسة أبي تمام. In that book that Abi Tammam has compiled, where there are lines of poetry from different Arabic poets, lines of poetry from different Arabic poets, and they talk about specific topics, and they can be used to explain certain words and words in specific meaning, in specific contexts, what they mean. So concentrate on Arabic language. The stronger you are in the Arabic language, the stronger you'll be as a student of knowledge.